I think that there's something much worse than having failed expectations. And I think that's when you're spiritually poor, you have no expectations.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's Jeff Heilman project. Thanks for staying with us in this, I'm calling it a flow coaster because it is not a roller coaster of emotions, but the flow certainly varies from 50 minutes one episode to 20 minutes another. This is going to be a quick quip, which is a little shorter than our regularly elongated podcast, but we're so glad that you're here. And that you hopefully are staying cool. It's a heat wave all over this country right now, from temperatures up to, right. I saw yesterday that it got up to 122 in Death Valley. It's
Gosh, it's a big hurricane down in the Gulf
hot.
too, which is
yes.
praying for folks to
Houston
safe.
And all in the Gulf of Mexico. We're praying for you, thinking of you, and just gonna stick with you during this process. So today's topic of conversation, we usually have some preliminaries. How was your week? And then Jeff says, what do you mean, how was my week? This is a Tuesday. No but we're going to jump right into it. Today we're going to be talking about what to do when we have failed expectations. Like if you've gotten an expectation, you were expecting something, but out of your control, things have happened, and now you've got your expectations were more or less blown. And the reason why we're bringing this up is I heard a story. And so if you'll permit me to share the story,
please. And
then we can open it up for discussion. So I'm listening to, on Audible, John Bevere has I don't know if it's a new book, but it's new to me, called Honor's Reward. And it's really good. It's about honor. It's about the reward that we receive when we honor others. And he was talking about a man who had he was in the insurance business, and he had very, very much deserved a promotion, and they were giving out promotions, but the promotion ended up going to somebody else. It ended up going to his counterpart. And because of wrongful, it was clear that he was the one that was supposed to get it, but he was passed over. He had all the right to go to HR, to go, file suit, to do all that. But upon, meditation, prayer, just thinking about like how the best way for him to handle it was, instead of making a big case for himself as to why he was overlooked, he went to the man who got the promotion instead and shook his hand and said, I just want you to know that I'm here for you and that I'm going to support you and I'm going to do everything that I can do to make sure that your position as
then he slid
promotion,
his tires.
No, that your position as promotion goes well, and I'm just here for you because I have no beef with the company. I enjoy my job. It's stable, and I'm just here to help you. So needless to say, the man knew he had gotten the promotion unjustly, but was humbled about it and humbled by it. And they ended up working together, and they ended up actually doing really well. And he worked, the man that originally got passed up for promotion, and did so well throughout the course of his tenure at that job that another insurance company, a rival insurance company, started seeking him out. And so through the course of time, he got, asked to dinner by this major insurance company, and was beginning to be wined and dined. And he's like, man, okay. And so he ends up getting wined and dined. And they're like, we really like what you're doing. We think that you're the right fit for our company. We want you to come over to our company. And he's like, no. I like my, he's made peace. He's been working there for a while now. He's comfortable. He's got a stable job. His wife is happy. Everybody's happy. And so he tells them no. And they say, okay, well, here's what we want you to do. Go home, talk to your wife.
The wife's like, do it.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
And write down a number of the salary that you would like to get. Like, if we could persuade you, what's your salary? Write it down, and then in a week, we're going to come and have another dinner. So Bill, I think his name was Bill, he goes home, and he talks to his wife, and he's like, I'm stable. We've got this good thing. It ended up working out. I really like the people I'm working with. I'm just, I got to get these guys off my back. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to write down 3 times what I'm making now. just to like blow him out. Because it's like, I mean, he'd worked his way up to an executive level role
Yep.
in the company. So
Yep.
3 times is 3 times. And he's like, I'm going to write it down and I'm just going to get him off my back because I know once I give him my 3 times, they're going to like say you're crazy and we'll just have a good dinner and I'll go home.
Yeah.
So a week transpires, right? And he goes to the table and they're all
This is a
sitting
good
there.
story. I can't wait to hear the end of it.
They're all sitting there and they're all sitting around and they're like, okay, they get to the part in the conversation where he's going to pull out his number. Well, the guy across the table goes, stop, put it away. And then he gets out a piece of paper and he writes down the number that they want to offer him. He closes it and he slips it across the table. Bill's like, okay. So Bill opens their offer and he's stunned because he's looking at the number and it's for 4 times what he had been making. But he's so stunned and so quiet because he's shocked. They go, oh, it's not good enough. It's not good enough. So they end up offering him 5 times what he was making, plus a portion of the company
By
and
the way,
benefits.
for the record, if there's anybody out there who wants to offer me 5 times what I'm making, let's talk.
And so then he goes, so he's like, okay, wait, settle. You know, like, hold on. He says, you know, I'm a believer and I need to take this home and I need to go talk about it with my wife. Like, I'm going to do the you know, honorable thing. I'm going to respect my family, respect my wife. I'm going to go home and talk about it.
Do the honorable thing and say yes.
And so he ends up folding up, you know, they finish their amazing dinner and he goes home and he talks it over with his wife and he prays about it. And he's just like, you know, he felt, and they talk about it and they talk it over and he took it into his prayer. And he's just like, you know, I felt like God was telling me, this is your vindication. This is your promotion. Go and be at peace with it and take the job. And so he did. He actually went back. He took the job. He's now, he's now retired from that major company in New York City off of the East Coast. But, you know, that story so resonated with me just because it was like, it took time. Obviously, it took humility. It took a decision.
It took discipline to be able to manage the failed expectations in the short run. And so oftentimes, I was thinking about something similar to that yesterday about I've had a lot of managers who have shot me down on stuff. And most of my ideas are ridiculous. I mean, I get that. I think outside the box. I don't even know there was a box. And we have to execute in a box called our calendar, called a balance sheet, called income statements. These are boxes, and they're there for a reason because they set and manage expectations for investors, the public, people running payroll. And so you have to have those boxes. But I kind of woke up in the middle of the night last night thinking about one particular manager who he basically shot down an idea for a course that I wanted to take. I've been in sales. My professional career has always been in sales. And I asked him, hey, would you I think the course was like $40. I said, would you pay for this? It was a course that you had to get a budget approved because it was taken inside of the company. And so you had to check a box and then that would show up as a line item on the budget for the group and they had to get it approved. So I asked my manager if I could get this course approved for $40 for a project manager course, because I was having trouble with the details of these larger deals that I was working on. He goes, no, you're not a project manager. And that always, it really bothered me on the front end because it was like, well, gosh, I should have just did it myself and, you know, asked for forgiveness later.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about all the different ways the scenario could have gone. Obviously, the being told no and being told expectation no. Also, the short-sightedness of this particular manager, in my opinion. Like, if anybody asked me for any course that I would pay for out of my own pocket, I would be like, here's my credit card.
Yeah.
Go charge as much as you want on my credit card for anything that's going to have for personal growth. Approved. The answer is approved. I don't care what it's for. If you think it's for growth, we're good, and I'll pay for it out of my pocket if I can't get the expense approved. That would be my approach to it. But I also, it's been 20 years, and it still bothers me a little bit, and I'm trying to think about what... But with regard to expectations is anytime somebody else has a smaller dream for your career than you do, you should stop listening to that person now. And don't ever listen to another word that person has to say about anything in life other than the absolute bare minimum that you would have to do in order to accomplish your job or maintain their relationship. If it's an uncle, you know, doesn't think you should eat as much potato salad at the potluck or whatever the thing is, but whatever you need to do to survive get along with that person. But I would literally slit that person's throat emotionally with regard to any ability for them to speak into your life, because I have always had a dream in my mind of doing things at a really high level, a world-class level, over and above money. Money has not been something that's really motivated me, but dreaming about things and doing something at a world-class level has always motivated me. And I've really had high expectations. And I think there's a lot of people out there that just don't have very high expectations.
Well, and I think that there's a difference between honoring someone. Well, the book does talk about like honoring people that are in authority. So clearly honoring your manager, honoring them.
If it's your uncle's potato salad.
But if they ask you to do something
half as much
that would cause you to compromise your moral values or to sin against another person or something, you know, there are definitely boundaries there that need to make sure that they become addressed. And in that process of that, would it appear when somebody's speaking over your life and it's negative over your life, that is like
doesn't belong.
It's harmful to yourself. It's like a sin. It's like a sin against self. And so being able to put yourself into a position, and we recognize that there are people that you're going to, you know, we're not encouraging anybody to quit their job and like walk out just because somebody a manager had harsh words. But what we are addressing is that to make sure that those words don't become an anchor into your soul and into your heart, and to be able to get to the point to where you can, like on the basketball court. I mean, you basketball players, you're out there talking crap and swearing at each other and telling each other you're pieces of junk and all that stuff while you're playing the ball and trying to get mind games. And that's all it is. It's just a bunch of mind games. It's no different than being on the court. They're just throwing out their trash talk in order to keep you from succeeding because they don't want you to have the ball. But we definitely don't need to take that home with us. We definitely don't need to take that home.
That's exactly right.
So good for Bill that he was able to see the long-term reward, which is kind of the whole premise. That he worked for? No, it just said it was a very large insurance company on the East Coast.
Gotcha.
But he did say that the point of the story was that choosing honor and doing the honorable act and the honorable action will always has a reward. There's a reward associated with when we choose to be honorable and act honorable. Right. And so there have been many times in your career, we've been married 28 years. Happy anniversary, honey.
Yay.
Many times in your career where you've had to take the high road, you've had to do the honorable act and to, turn your other cheek when things have been coming against you. And I believe that you've been rewarded for that. I believe that whether you stayed with the company every job transition has gone for a better position. Anytime a job has been lost or
every time that I've had a job loss, maybe twice, 2 or 3 times out of 40 or 50. I think I've had 50 jobs total. Every single time I left.
You've left honorably.
I left the best I could, right? I was always grateful for the job that I'd had. I always ended up getting promoted, and the company I worked for always ended up going out of business or having their stock tank or their products
you got
fail,
promoted into the next role, and then the company that you left, the
company that I wasn't good enough to work for failed.
Yeah, exactly.
And the company that I ended up going to work for was grateful to have me. And so I definitely think that I probably set I think that I probably set really high expectations and don't always meet them, which to me is normal.
Yeah.
Right.
If you don't shoot for the moon, how are you going to get to the stars?
But in a world of sometimes the plane's going to get to Phoenix.
Yeah.
It's like when you're in business and you deal in a life of boxes. They talk about the accounting in the day 1, class 1, minute 1 of accounting. They talk about that accounting is the language of business. And I think that's true. But it's not the language of innovation. The language of innovation is whiteboarding and drawing and taking naps and scraps of paper at 2 o'clock in the morning with a scribble that you can't even read the next morning. You're like, I don't even know what that is, but I know it's the next rocket booster for one of Elon's missiles or something. That failed expectations are part of Silicon Valley. I mean, when we did Tagile, here's a business that had $700 million market cap and offices in 30 countries and 350 employees. When it was at its peak, $60 or $70 million a year in revenue and was booming. We started that on a cocktail napkin. And the first year, I didn't take a salary. Rohit didn't take a salary. Rohit didn't take a salary for a long time. But Rohit didn't take a salary. That didn't make a hill of beans of difference to him. It was starvation for us.
I remember.
It was cars being repossessed and food not being purchased and debt being accrued. And then that was in order to build a product that I'm literally 2 hours into the first on-site visit with the customer a year and a half later. And my engineer looks like, don't you think you ought to take these guys to lunch? No. Doing this behind the... And our product failed. And our product failed not because the product didn't work, but because we had not engineered solutions to customer problems, which would impede us from, and I'm 18 months in. Like my 401k is gone. I had $100,000 in my 401k. That was gone. I had $60,000 or $70,000 in savings. That was gone. I had a brand new Denali Yukon XL truck. That was gone. Brand new BMW 7 Series. That was gone.
I remember one of those. Hey, if we're gonna get connected,
you want to talk about failed expectations?
If we're gonna get connected, I remember. I
expect to eat.
I remember one of those days having nothing for dinner, and yet it was like, I just knew that somehow. and a girlfriend of mine, Lisa, God bless you, Lisa, she calls and she goes, hey, we had all this extra pizza. Somehow we ended up with like 2 pizzas and wanted to know if we could drop it off for you guys because I just felt like we needed. And I was just like, kids, we're having dinner tonight. We had pizza that night. And I think that everybody goes through a level of that.
I don't think most people go through that kind of stuff.
But I think that I don't think it's to the degree necessarily. There are a lot of people, I think most people, will sacrifice self-image for the greater good. They'll sacrifice their own health. They don't know that by choosing going to, Wendy's and Taco Bell and ordering off of the Taco Bell menu, and putting their carotid arteries and deciding to have sleepless nights, giving up sleep is what we were doing when we were giving up food in exchange for faith that food would come. Like they're exchanging. There's a manner of exchange.
There's a price.
There's a price, especially in this valley, especially in this economy, and especially right now. I just think that when they hear our stories of like, hey, man, I know that we're gonna eat. Because I would never let my kids starve. It was more like a Hail Mary, hey, and then the food showed up. I knew that we were going to eat.
Yeah, it's always just pancakes at the end of the month. It sucks. Right?
It's just not. Rice and butter and salt is just not the best tasting meal. It's not the most exciting meal. We were going to eat, but as it turned out, we got to eat the best because of a faith action that we put out there.
Yeah. And there's a difference between being financially poor, which we've been pretty broke. I don't think we've ever been, I never felt poor, but we were. Like, look at the numbers, right? Yeah. You're feeding 5 people on $2,000 a month for 10 years.
Yeah. A lot of potatoes, a lot of rice, a lot of beans.
There was a lot of potatoes until there weren't. There was a lot of cheese until there wasn't. But I think that there's a difference between being physically broke and spiritually poor. And I know there's a lot of people out there probably not listening to this podcast, but you probably know somebody if you're listening to this podcast who is spiritually poor. And I think that there's something much worse than having failed expectations. And I think that's when you're spiritually poor, you have no expectations. You're like, I don't expect anything else in my life. You've been disappointed so many times There's nothing on deposit.
So that's a good question as we kind of, I'm sure we're getting close, is it better to, so we're talking about managing expectations when things don't go according to plan. Is it better to have no like there's a lot of people, there's a trend recently where they just don't, I don't want to expect because then I don't hurt. If I don't expect, then it doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So is it better to risk being hurt? Like, what is it? What is the pain? What is the actual point of pain? Is it?
I think pain's there to let you know there's danger. There's clear and present danger, right? Like cutting your finger, right? There's danger there. And that's important because it lets you know what's the danger of your finger being cut. Number one, the blade could keep going, right? Number two, there's infection. So there's clear and present danger there, and that's what pain's associated with. But the trouble is when we don't choose our responsibility, ability to choose your response. When you look and see what is the pain actually telling me. Sometimes I'm super sore when I'm at the gym, and that pain is telling me I probably worked out too hard. But it's also a precursor for growth. And so I think we have to look at pain and look at things that are telling us there might be clear and present danger or discomfort. But then we also need to use cognitive skills to say, oh, this pain just means I need to take 5 pounds off the bar tomorrow and then go back and do it in 2 days after I've healed. And then you'll get back into a growth spot. So, yeah, but expectations and pain, it's this back and forth as you go through life of, hey, it's a little uncomfortable trying to do something as I move my comfort zone out in front of me.
It's a reminder of being alive. I think,
100%.
I'm thinking about that, like having our son being in professional sport or, Olympic level sports in diving. If you go too long without getting a back slap, then you're not learning a new skill. If you're a gymnast and you go too long on the floor and you don't fall, you're not going to be trying for that 3 twister, whatever, somersault thing. That's right. It's I'm alive. Oh, I'm alive. I'm especially alive because I just got a bruise or I just got hurt. And a lot of professional athletes will know that they don't, there's a period where you're just in the, you can get too comfortable and you begin to not growing in the field that you're in. And so it's a good reminder to just go, oh, I'm alive. And so maybe if we can see these moments of expectations, because if we got everything that we expected all the time, I mean, how boring is that? How boring is that?
Yeah, that would be like getting, 18 holes in one on the golf course. Yeah. It's like, this game isn't even hard.
This game isn't even hard.
That's right.
So, well, hopefully that gave you guys some food for thought. And how do you handle your expectations and failed expectations? Are you in a point to where you're done believing and you don't want to get hurt anymore? Well, we hope that we could encourage you to maybe look at it a little differently from being hurt to being alive. This is a reminder that we're living. This is a reminder that we're growing.
And one other piece too with regard to expectations, your expectations can be augmented. They can be amended. They can be
absolutely
changed a little bit. I had an expectation that I'd be worth $1 million by 30, 10 million by 40, 100 million by 50.
And by all regard, you got it. You just didn't know $1 million wasn't going to be worth $1 million by the time you got
$1 million by 30. I should have set the goal a little higher. That went awful fast. But we did. I had made $1 million by 30 and multiple millions by the time I turned 40. And now I'm 50 and it's like, wait a minute, we're going backwards here. Time to buy some commercial real estate.
Yeah, there's a lot that we don't know that is out of our control. So, I love that. Amending your expectations. Maybe it's time to amend an expectation.
Yeah. And amending your expectations and saying, okay, maybe it's going to take me till 60 to make $100 million.
Heck.
Like, still, that's fine.
Yeah, well, and we had talked because I was thinking about, I want to have this restaurant cafe business one day. And I was going through the process going, well, it would take 18 months to build and it would take a year to plan. Like I'm already 3 years into a project going.
And you haven't even opened your doors yet.
I can't like throw that out in the universe. I want to have it next year. Well, it's going to take 3 years to even get. So let's reasonable expectations.
Big goals, but timelines that make sense.
Absolutely.
And even if you collapse those time frames, just be cool with the fact that, hey, sometimes you're going to have missed expectations. I think failed expectations and something that gets pickled in somebody's brain to where they become spiritually poor because they're just not willing to fight anymore. I think failed expectations it kills people. It breaks people's heart. In fact, I don't know if it's the Stockdale paradox, but in his book, Good to Great, which we can put a little link below for Good to Great by
Jim Collins?
Jim Collins, yeah. He talked about an admiral who was captured and was a prisoner of war for a long time, like 6 or 7 years, long time. But he would trade. It would like, okay, Admiral, it's your turn to get released. And he's like, no, send these 4 guys instead. And so he just kept trading his life for other people's. And he said that his people asked him, like, what was his key to survival? And he said, I set reasonable expectations that I'm not going to get out of here probably ever. And he said that the people that went into prison camp and they were like, hey, it's almost, we're going to be out by Labor Day. And then they wouldn't get it. And then we're going to be out by Thanksgiving. And then they wouldn't get it. And then they would be out by, they wouldn't get it. And they would die.
Yeah.
They would die of failed expectations. Like failed expectations can kill you. So let's not have that. Okay. Yeah. Can we amend? And his tag phrase that ended the chapter was, the best thing I could give the newly captured in the prison camp was to tell them, boys, we ain't getting out of here by Christmas.
Good night, you guys, or good day wherever you are. Have an awesome rest of your week, and we'll see you next time on the Jeff Heilman Project. And you can expect it.